So Velma on HBO Max has been greenlit for a season 2, despite all the backlash and the fact that it's currently rated the worst animated show on IMDb. There are people pointing to hate watching to explain this, and saying the best course of action would be to completely ignore the show, since the show got a lot of attention when it first premiered, and even still is getting a lot of attention. But I honestly don't think that's what led to the second season being greenlit, mostly because I think it was likely already in development. Animation takes a long time to develop. It's more likely that they ordered 20 or so episodes and then split them up into 2 seasons. Then they announced the second season for publicity. They made a lot of statements trying to make the show look successful, like saying that it was HBO Max's most viewed animated show, and touted that it had a 127% spike in interest. Except when you take a closer look, it's revealed that HBO Max didn't actually have any other animated shows on the platform when Velma premiered, so it's not surprising that it would break that record. It didn't actually have any competition, and they got that 127% figure from Parrot Analytics. Parrot Analytics doesn't actually track views. It pulls their data from multiple sites, and basically just tracks how much a show has been mentioned, even if it's people on social media saying that they aren't going to watch Velma. The fact that Velma was mentioned at all will be counted. Just because something is mentioned doesn't mean it's going to translate into views. And when the Nielsen ratings did come out, Velma was nowhere to be seen, despite their claims of it breaking records for the service, or the concerns that hate watching was going to get it more attention. If it was really as popular or unpopular to cause all this hate watching, then it should realistically be in the top 10 for that week, but it isn't. HBO Max didn't even see a spot in the top 10 original programming. They never actually released the ratings for Velma, the way they did for The Last of Us, probably insinuating that it wasn't as good as they were expecting, or as good as they're trying to lead us to believe. There's been this prevailing attitude that all publicity is good publicity, even if they're getting a ton of backlash. It's true that publicity will get people's attention, but that doesn't mean it'll keep their attention, and it also doesn't mean that attention will translate into sales, whether it's ticket sales at the box office or subscriptions to HBO Max. We've seen this happen before, where a piece of media gets talked about a lot online, but it doesn't actually translate into sales. For example, the movie Morbius. The film was memed on really hard, and while the memes were fun, it didn't actually do the film any favors. It bombed at the box office, but then Sony saw its virality on the internet, so they released it again, only for it to bomb again. Morbius wasn't fun to watch, not even in a so bad it's good kind of way, and the same is true for Velma, but they are fun to meme on and make fun of, and people who are watching it are doing it through third-party sources, whether it's watching YouTube videos about it, or just straight up pirating it. Most people are going to go out of their way to not support it financially, because they know they're not going to get entertainment out of it. Like Eddie Burback made a video where he went to see Morbius 5 days in a row, but he didn't want to support the movie, so instead of buying a ticket to Morbius, he bought a ticket to Everything Everywhere All at Once, and then snuck into Morbius. And that video was way more entertaining than Morbius itself, so why would anyone actually bother watching the film? And the same applies to Velma. It's just not very good. The characters are unlikable, especially the main character who we spend the most time with. The humor is obnoxious at best and insulting at worst. And it's supposed to be a prequel to the Scooby-Doo gang, but it A, doesn't have Scooby, and B, whenever it does bring up the source material, it tends to make fun of it and be really mean-spirited.
All cool fashion advertising for teens is just trashy, tinged sex stuff.
Because nothing's trashier or more tinged than teens in an old van.
The show managed to be so bad that practically everyone on the internet agrees that it's bad, and the internet agreeing on something never happens, which is really nice for once. There's usually pretty big divides in the fandoms, but here it's hard to tell who this show was actually made for. It wasn't made for Scooby-Doo fans. There's a joke making fun of adults who watch cartoons, which is especially weird considering the fact that this is an adult cartoon, so I'm not sure why they thought insulting the audience was a good idea. I understand where people are coming from when they say not to hate watch. We shouldn't be supporting shows like this, but it's still okay to meme on things, and for YouTubers to roast them. And I think it is important for us to say how we feel about it, because it's pretty obvious they were surrounded by yes men. Kaling said that they got no pushback when developing the show, despite the fact that it was pretty obvious this was all a bad idea. The only thing Warner Brothers said was that they couldn't use Scooby-Doo himself, but other than that, they had free range to take these characters who are marketed towards children and do whatever they wanted with them, including turning them into drug dealers and constantly sexualizing them. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like Warner Brothers brothers really care that much about their properties, and I think it's important for them to hear another opinion. Even if it's millions of people complaining on Twitter and YouTube, we can call out the show and not support it at the same time. And I think it's important to let companies know what we like and don't like. Mindy Kaling had multiple tweets about Velma, but has since deleted many of them, and that's likely due to Velma not being well received and people being vocal about it. Maybe if Warner Brothers hadn't been full of yes men who just went along with whatever the creatives were doing, this wouldn't have happened. It is disappointing that this got greenlit when there were other cooler projects that they could have made. They canceled a lot of projects, and a lot of them sound way more interesting than Velma did. I wasn't a big fan of Scoob, but the planned sequel actually sounded interesting. It would follow the kids as kids, solving mysteries, which sounds like a way better prequel than Velma. They were also working on a Hex Girls movie. The Hex Girls are very popular side characters from Scooby-Doo, and I think a movie featuring them could have been successful. And there were other properties like Infinity Train that were also canceled, and it's all just a shame. But they made their bed and now they have to lie in it, with all the backlash that entails. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think no publicity is bad publicity? Or do you think HBO Max is just making excuses? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, The Rabbit Mancer, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JBR, Hussyman42, Nixel, Eric Griffin, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Caleb Nelson, Bandito Bane, Dakari the Professor, Equestron, Norman Sweetcream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Garcia XV Legend, Hunter Rose, Dash Hound, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Lil, Miranda Sinistra, Butcher7 Actual, Kitsune Fiora, Felix Spam, and Soundboy00. Thank you all so much for your support, and if you'd like to support the channel as a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this content, you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.